Oh, yes, yes. Hello, hello, folks. Welcome back to another week of the Hit the Green podcast. With a little bit of a major championship hangover week here because what a hell of a PGA championship we just had there at TPC Harding Park in the Bay Area, San Francisco, California. I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I'm actually a Stanford alum, so really bummed actually that we weren't able to have fans this week around TPC Harding Park because it definitely would have been a trek that I would have made. Living in Southern California now wouldn't have been too bad to make my way up there back to the Bay. It had been a while since I've been there too, so kind of bummed out that no spectators were allowed. But what a fucking golf tournament! Another event that I was really hoping for a playoff down the stretch. Man, just absolutely phenomenal event. We'll get into the recap after I go ahead and talk to you guys once again about Thrive Fantasy. Just want to let you guys know over at Thrive, they do player prop style daily fantasy sports. Really makes it a lot easier for the casual player to get into the cash and make some money, and that's what we're after here are some profits. They're going to go ahead and give you 10 prop bets to select from. You're going to choose between 5 of those prop bets, and the great thing is these prop bets involve players that you're going to see on the broadcast anyway. The PGA Tour, again, reminded us of how terrible they are at broadcasting. Even though the PGA Championship was better than most events they have, we should be able to see a lot more golf shots than we do during coverage. And Thrive has us covered by only having us select player props for players that are going to be a part of that featured coverage for the most part. So definitely recommend you go check them out. If you want to, you can go ahead and download them from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. If you do, go ahead and use promo code HTGPOD. Again, that's promo code HTGPOD when you sign up, and you'll get $20 match on your first deposit of $20 or more. So definitely recommend you check them out, and if you do, certainly use the promo code HTGPOD. So before we get full-blown into the PGA Championship recap, I'm going to let you guys know what I'm smoking today. I'm smoking, and it's hilarious. Like, these strain names just get funnier and funnier. Grape God. The grower is High Garden. The strain is Grape God. It's an indica dominant hybrid. It's testing at 22.1% THC. And the first thing I noticed when I was busting it up to roll this joint was I didn't notice much of a scent. And I'm someone who that's big with me. Normally when I first bust open a jar of some good chronic, it hits you in the face. You guys all know that. And this did not. So already a strike against it, I think, but we'll see how it smokes. Don't always judge a book by its cover. So let's go ahead and spark this puppy up. Same trick as always, guys. And right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, it also doesn't taste the greatest. But we'll see how I feel here in, 5-10 minutes. We'll see how cerebral this gets. Okay, so 2020 PGA Championship, as you guys probably already know, Colin Morikawa is your champion at minus 13 under. And what a hell of a finish from Morikawa. I mean, just balls of steel down the stretch. On 16, deciding to pull the driver on the short par 4. Already had me in love with Morikawa, just having the stones to make that play. But then to follow it up by hitting that driver to inside of 8 feet, and then draining that eagle putt on a Sunday in a major championship at the PGA Championship in those weather conditions. I mean, hats off to the kid. He is off to a blazing start to his career. And really, these young golfers that we see on tour, Matthew Wolff had a T4 with a phenomenal final round, 5 under, 65. Morikawa goes 65, 64. for the lowest weekend in major championship history. So, I mean, the game of golf is in a great place for the future, and us as fans, we should be really excited, and we're really fortunate to have these young players that we do, and they're already showing what they're capable of. My biggest takeaway from last week, two things. One, more on a personal note, I cannot wait to go and play TPC Harding Park. That golf course looks incredible. And the risk reward aspect that it showed, that it displayed this week at the PGA Championship, is exactly what I'm looking for in a golf course. It punished bad shots and it rewarded good shots for the most part. And there was also a lot of thought that you had to give to taking risks like Morikawa did on the 16th. So absolutely what I look for in a golf course, and I cannot wait for an opportunity to go play TPC Harding Park because I will absolutely be jumping at that. My second takeaway was, and the broadcasters mentioned this quite a bit, they were keen to it as well. A lot of long hitters ended up toward the top of the leaderboard. Morikawa being an exception, and there were a few exceptions. Some of the short hitters did succeed, but a lot of the long hitters were able to sort of bomb and gouge this place. And I noticed right off the first tee when I saw Bryson's group go off, he was certainly going to be pulling driver everywhere around this course and just bombed it really onto the second tee box and was able to make birdie from there. So finding fairways wasn't as important as we were hoping it would be. A lot of the long hitters were able to utilize their distance to gain an advantage on the field here. And that was something that, being a major championship and being a golf course that we hadn't seen in years, there was a bit of a guessing game to be played as to how it would set up. So something to note moving forward, PGA championships do typically set up for long hitters in general. So maybe that's just something that the PGA wants to, make a staple of its championship. But just something to note moving forward, and something that I've noted, the long hitters did succeed this week. One incredibly infuriating thing that happened this week, and we're going to re-spark before we even mention it. And some of you loyal listeners might already, know where I'm headed with this. Paul Casey T2 at minus 11. The guy was absolutely rock solid all week for a minute there. He was scaring me as though he was going to win it. And I mean, we've been on Casey the last couple of weeks and jumped off for the PGA Championship. And he made us pay. So Casey will be a guy that we're going to look to potentially this week. Not going to let that recency bias get to us as maybe it did last week, because Casey was underpriced again for how the class of his ball striking is top notch in the world. And his ownership came in really low last week. So a bit of a missed opportunity on Casey, but moving forward, we're certainly going to keep mitigating that recency bias that seems to affect all of the fantasy golf community. And for the most part, aside from, leaving Casey off of our list, which a lot of people did because he was low owned, as I mentioned, the Millie Maker was great as far as the player pool was concerned. It was really fun to see Bud Cauley jump out to the lead there early on Thursday. He made a cut in a very nice performance. Thursday and Friday, the ball striking was off the charts for Cauley. He slowed down over the weekend, but certainly came through for us at that price tag and ownership. Justin Rose, super low owned, returned to some decent form. He did most of it with the putter, but a very, very solid finish for us at that price tag and ownership. And really the only true letdown in our player pool was Matthew Fitzpatrick, who just, he had one of those weeks with the driver. He could not find it with the driver, and typically he's a guy that finds just about every fairway around the golf course. So if he's not finding fairways, he's toast, and he wasn't finding fairways. So player pool was very, very good this week. Just need to find the right combinations. Hopefully you guys stuck with Morikawa. The ownership for him was too high for me, so I went with a fade. I wasn't comfortable with how high owned he was, and he did come in at very high ownership, but of course was justified in the fact that he got the win. Again, our model had him rating out second, and I mentioned to you guys, look, if everything I'm telling you tells you that you should play Morikawa, then go ahead and play Morikawa. So I hope you guys listen to yourselves in that respect if you were okay with his ownership. If I had to make the decision all over again, I would go the exact same place I did. I do think Morikawa was overowned for just the pure talent that was in that field. But man, what a hell of a major championship. First one we got since the 2019 Open Championship. we needed it in the golf community. We needed a major. Fun to see Tiger, competing at a major. He had a much better Sunday and Thursday than he did Friday and Saturday. The putter just absolutely disappeared on him Friday and Saturday, and it seemed like he was just, like a dog chasing cars, as they say, always putting for par on Friday and Saturday, and really pretty lengthy par putts at that. So really struggle over Friday and Saturday for Tiger, but encouraging to see him play at least 2 solid rounds in the PGA Championship, and really hoping that he gets that game in form and that, the health is good enough so that he can compete once again at Augusta. All right, so with that, we're going to get into the 2020 Wyndham Championship. I'm going to relight this thing, even though I honestly don't even want to. Just not my favorite strain, or, just it's not very tasty. It can taste like plant matter almost, is sort of the taste. I feel like it's almost a little unhealthy. Maybe I'll need to detox after this one, but yeah, it tastes sort of like planty. But for the sake of the show, the show must go on. Okay, the 2020 Wyndham Championship. Getting into the course breakdown, we're going to be playing at Sedgefield Country Club this week. It's in Greensboro, North Carolina. Plays at a par 70, 7,127 yards. And we're going to be on Bermuda greens this week. Sedgefield is a Donald Ross design. Some other Donald Ross designs we see on the PGA Tour. We saw one recently at Detroit Country Club, which is where the Rocket Mortgage is played. As well as the Tour Championship, we will see another Ross design at East Lake. So if, you're between 2 players and you're really having a tough time deciding between 2 guys, a decent tiebreaker, I guess, if you have no other way to break your tie, would be to go look at that Rocket Mortgage leaderboard, if they both played in the Rocket Mortgage earlier this year, and, see who had the better performance there. I think that's a reasonable way to break a tie. I wouldn't be making any decisions based on that, but if you're dead heat between 2 guys, I think that's a reasonable way to break a tie. And this thing went out again. JT Poston is your defending champion. He shot minus 22 last year. Typically, this is an event where people go very low. So you can suspect we're going to want people that can make a ton of birdies, can make some eagles on the couple of par 5s we're going to have this week. Those are going to be numbers 5 and number 15. Both are going to be reachable in 2 by the entire field. So you're certainly going to want some people that can have the upside to make some eagles this week. Numbers 10, 11, and 12, in my opinion, are the toughest stretch on the golf course. A couple long par 4s in 10 and 11, and that's about 230-yard par 3 it'll probably play at this week. For most days, it'll play at about 230 yards. And number 12 is probably going to play as a top 3 most difficult hole on the golf course this week. Are we going to necessarily account for this stretch in our model? No. But one thing to consider would be that players, I guess for showdown, players starting on the back 9, or just in general, players starting on the back 9 might get off to a slightly worse start. I don't know if that's going to, lead to any sort of decisions or change in decision making for you guys. But potentially, if you don't like your guys to maybe be phased by a rocky start, then lean toward guys that are starting on the front 9. But after number 12, the back 9 softens up quite a bit until you get to number 18, which is also a very difficult par 4. But after 12 and before 18, the back 9 does soften up. So I wouldn't necessarily look to a front 9, back 9 showdown sort of stack. Rather than that, I would look for a weather stack for both showdown and for the entire tournament, because I would also probably reduce the amount of money you're playing this week in daily fantasy sports, quite honestly, for golf, because the weather forecast in Greensboro calls for thunderstorms Thursday through Saturday, and there's a high chance of them, and it calls for a high chance of rain on Sunday. While not thunderstorms, a lot of rain. The winds are supposed to be down for the most part, 5 to 8 miles an hour, which isn't terrible. But man, with unpredictability of weather, I would certainly maybe play a couple fewer lineups than you normally would this week. Not invest the full bankroll that you normally would, and also maybe get a little funky with it this week. Don't be afraid to full weather stack, even for a full tournament. Take all 6 guys that are teeing off in the AM, or take all 6 guys that are teeing off in the PM on Thursday, and see if the weather breaks one way for one of these waves. Aside from weather stacking, we do still want to build out our model for a golfer that we think will succeed around this golf course. So based on previous tournament results, past winners, my own intuition as well, our golfer prototype this week, stats we're going to be including in our model are strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained approach, fairways gained, surprisingly correlated really well, particularly to last year's event, which JT Poston won. Strokes gained on the par 4s. Again, we have another one of these par 70 tracks, so we're going to have more par 4s than we normally would, the 2 extra par 4s. Birdies are better gained. Again, minus 22 on last year. It is an event that typically a very low score wins. Brandt Snedeker shot a 59 in his win in 2018. So, yeah, we're going to need people that can make birdies. And finally, I think it's the first time we've actually included this stat here at HTG Pod for an event in our model. We're going to include strokes gained putting this week. To make a lot of birdies, you're going to need to be running with a hot putter. And particularly, we're looking at putting on Bermuda, because these Bermuda surfaces, there are some players that just really like them much more. One of those players being the first player we're actually going to get to in our top shelf plays. But yeah, we are going to include strokes gained putting, just a bit of a sprinkle in there on it. But if we're going to get our guys to have the upside that we need around here, they're going to have a hot week with the putter. So why not, identify some guys that at least over the last 24 measured rounds have shown some success with the flat stick. All right, and with that, we can get into our top shelf plays. I'm going to get a little drink of water here. Man. Purple God or whatever this is. Not coming back. There will be no more Purple God for me. There is, however, a God around Sedgefield Country Club, and he's our first top shelf play of the week. Our top shelf plays are $10,000 or more in Draftkings salary, and it's Webb Simpson at $11,200. He is projected at 30% ownership. Yeah, you heard me right. 30% ownership this week, and I'm okay with it, is maybe even the crazier part. I am generally a proponent of ownership fades, but jeez, Webb lines up perfect for this event, and his course history, proves that he won the event in 2011. As a matter of fact, his daughter is named Wyndham after this event, commemorating that win. The last 3 years, Webb's finishes have been solo second, tied for second, and solo third. He comes into the event in fine enough form. He loves putting on Bermuda surfaces. He is one of the best Bermuda putters, and he loves Sedgefield clearly, and clearly loves the Wyndham Championship because I'm sure he loves his daughter and he named her after it. So Webb, even at this 30% ownership, I don't want to pay up for Brooks. I feel like a letdown's coming after, that poor Sunday at the PGA. So I would rather save the $200 and go to Webb, a guy who is a course horse around here, and a guy who, in looking at his previous events played following majors, it was something I wanted to look at. Webb performs well. Let me actually give you guys some examples. So after last year's Open Championship, Webb came second at WG St. Jude. Following the PGA Championship in 2019, Webb came second at the Canadian Open. Following the Masters in 2019, Webb came 16th at the RBC Heritage. Following the PGA Championship in 2018, Webb came second here at the Wyndham. So, yeah, it's Webb clearly is a guy that doesn't have a major championship hangover like I think some of these guys have, because majors are very grueling and it's a lot on the mind. So with Webb not having shown, I mean, quite honestly, it seems like he plays even better following major championships. He's one of these players that maybe seems to get a bump coming off of a major. So I absolutely love Webb this week. I'm sorry. Even at 30% ownership, we have to match the field here. Get some Webb in your lineups. His win equity is through the roof, and you have to eat the chalk here. I think you just have to eat the chalk here. And for those of you that might not know what eating the chalk is, I think I've used that term a couple times without explaining it. Chalk in daily fantasy are players that we expect to be highly owned by the field. So eating the chalk is saying, you just have to play them anyway because they rate out so well, and their ownership still doesn't reflect their upside or their median projection or whatever it might be. Whether you're playing a big tournament or a cash game. So Webb this week, we're going to eat the chalk at that 30% ownership and $11,200. Our next top shelf play is Patrick Reed at $10,700, 19.5% projected ownership. And I could go over like the stats with you with Reed, and I could do it. But like I mentioned, every week I, tout Reed. He's one of these. In this field, he's one of the best players. He's one of the most talented players, which we haven't been able to say about him in maybe the last couple fields. But in any field, Patrick Reed is live to win. Any field, any event, if he's in form, if he's feeling it that week, he's going to compete for the win. And he's won plenty of times on tour to prove that in big spots as well. He's got a green jacket in his closet. The guy knows how to get it done. So at 19.5% projected ownership, totally fair ownership to pay, totally fair price tag at $10,700, being that he's one of the most talented players in the field. And I think he carries a lot of win equity. So Patrick Reed, I'm not even going to dive into the stats with you guys. I don't really any week. It's just one of those things where if you see him get off to, a hot start, he plays pretty well Thursday and Friday, he's going to be in it come Sunday. So Patrick Reed, $10,700, 19.5% projected ownership is our second top shelf play. And our final top shelf play, and yes, we're going back to him. Should have been on him again last week. It's Paul Casey, $10,300, 15.5% projected ownership. And Casey's ball striking has been great, aside from apparently when we roster him, it seems. But Casey was phenomenal at the PGA Championship. What can you say? Tee to green. He absolutely killed it. Gained 13.7 strokes total, and 12.2 of those were tee to green. So didn't even have that great of a week with the putter, but was fire on approach, gaining 7.2 strokes. And at St. Jude, I don't know what was going on. Lost 2.3 strokes tee to green at St. Jude, which for him to make the turnaround tee to green that quickly, we should have, a player of Casey's caliber, should have given him the benefit of the doubt. To see him perform as well as he did last week at the PGA tee to green, I don't see any reason why his form won't remain. Casey's another guy who I don't see any serious issues with following major championships. He came 27th at the St. Jude in 2019 following the Open Championship. Came 5th at the Travelers following the U.S. Open in 2019. So, I mean, he's not a guy we have to be concerned about following major championship week. He played so great. He is one of the most talented players in this field, and the ownership's really not even coming in that high at 15.5%. So Paul Casey at $10,300, I think, has a fair price tag. I would go into the model numbers with him as well, but something for you guys to note this week for the model, and something that I noted, when you take the last 24 measured rounds for a player, it's just going to take their last 24 measured rounds, right? So players that didn't play in the PGA Championship last week in that stacked field, they don't have data from that event to include in their rounds. So a player like Paul Casey or Patrick Reed or Webb Simpson, their statistics are being compared against much stronger fields than some of these other players' statistics are. So we have to be a little bit careful with our model ranking this week for that, because of that fact. which is why I will share maybe less of the model rankings with you guys this week. But for our cheaper players, for our players that aren't playing in stacked fields every week, we will rely on the model to help us sift through those types of folks. But with a player of Casey's class, players of Reed's class, and Simpson does rate out great anyway, I'm not concerned about where they rate out in the model. So Paul Casey is our final top shelf play at $10,300 and 15.5% projected ownership. And now we can get into our mid shelf plays and try and choke this fucking thing down. All right. For our mid-shelf plays, I think we can start to dig into the model a bit. But again, take the model with the tiniest grain of salt this week because, yeah, we are comparing, in some sense, apples to oranges for these players, literally. Like some of these players have only played, opposite field type of events where they're very, very weak fields. And other players have been playing in these top events week in, week out, the WGCs, the majors. So just take it with a bit of a grain of salt. But our first mid-shelf play and our mid-shelf plays are $7,500 or more in DraftKings pricing is Harris English at $9,300, 21.8% projected ownership. I don't love on English, but English has been a ball striking extraordinaire here over his last 24 measured events. He rates out 5th in the custom model. He's 1st in strokes gained on par 4s. 25th on approach, 13th tee to green. I mean, English has just been striping it. The guy is a very streaky putter, which we'll have to hope that his putter stays hot. It's been very hot as of late, but he's going to find fairways. He's going to gain tee to green, and if his putter stays as hot as it has been, then he's going to be in contention this week. I believe English's course history is not the greatest. And let me double check that for you guys really quickly. I had it here. Yeah, so English has made the cut here all 5 years. The last 5 years he's played the event. T39, T11, T50, T46, and T31. So best finish being T11 over the last 5 years. Not the greatest at this price tag, being that he is also Harris English, but given that he also rates out great in the model, the course history is, good to neutral. The ownership may be a bit high, but Harris English, certainly a guy you can look to at that $9,300 price tag. I might prefer to dip down into the $8,000 range rather than attack this low $9,000 range just because of the ownership. But you can't deny that English rates out great. So if you're someone that likes yourself some Harris English this week, I can certainly get behind that play. The next mid-shelf play, similarly owned English at a similar price. It's Billy Horschel at $9,100, 19.7% projected ownership. And Billy Ho, he's a very class player for this field. Very talented player, a guy that can compete for FedEx Cups. And usually ramps up this time of the year. We start to look for Billy Ho around FedEx Cup time. I know this is a bit of a weirder season, right? Of course, being with coronavirus, but this is when we expect Billy Horschel to start to turn up. And I expect him to start to do that. He does it year in and year out. Come FedEx Cup time, he starts to kick it into gear. As far as the model goes, Billy Ho is coming in 17th. He's 33rd tee to green. He's 5th in birdies or better gain. So Billy's been making a lot of birdies over his last 24 measured rounds. And he's been hot with the putter, 9th in strokes gained putting. So if he can stay hot on these greens, keep making these birdies. He's 19th strokes gained, par 4s. And again, this is when I expect Billy Horschel to start to be at his best, around this time of year. So this is when I do like to start rostering him. He came T6 in this event last year and T11 the year prior. So, he's got some upside around here, and the ownership is fair. It's fair, sub 20%. So Billy Horschel, $9,100, 19.7% projected ownership, is the second mid-shelf play for this week. The next mid-shelf play is Brendan Todd at $8,900, 16% projected ownership, and Todd's just been on fire. He's been playing really, really well, tee to green the last 2 weeks. Started to fall apart there at the end of the PGA Championship, so a bit of a buyer beware, a bit of a caveat there that Todd started to regress at the end of the PGA Championship, but that was a tough golf course, tough weather conditions. For the most part, Todd over the last 8 rounds has been stellar. So I think we go back to him this week. The price tag's fair. The ownership is fair. I'll want to match the field on Brendan Todd at $8,900, 16% projected ownership. And I feel bad for the guy because, he was in contention a couple weeks ago, got off to a hot start at the PGA Championship. I want to see him, get a win. I do. One of these weeks, I'd love to see Brendan Todd get a win. We'll see if he can do it this week. He lines up well for this golf course, so I'll be excited to see how he finishes. The next mid-shelf play, and I'm just going to, I'm going to go with long-term form, and I'm going to go with the class player I know him to be, is Sungjae Im, the young South Korean, coming in at $8,800 and 9.1% projected ownership. Given his current form, both his price and ownership are absolutely fair, maybe even a bit high. But Sungjae is a guy that long term is so much better than this price tag and ownership, like leaps and bounds better than this price tag and ownership. So I'm going to go to Sungjae here. It looked like he started to get it turned around a bit, even though, of course, he missed the cut there at the PGA, but he gained tee to green in both rounds. He gained on approach in that final round. He gained in fairways in both rounds. Just can't make birdies. Like lost 3.3 strokes putting across the 2 rounds cumulatively. So let's get back to putting on these Bermuda greens, Sungjae. Let's maybe be neutral with the putter and return to a bit of that ball striking form. And I think we're getting a discount on one of the better players in this field. I think Sungjae is going to have a great career on the PGA Tour. And I think we're going to look back on this price tag and be surprised that we were able to get him in the high $8,000 range and single-digit ownership. So hoping that Sungjae turns it around this week because I will be owning plenty of him at $8,800 and 9.1% projected ownership. And the next player, and this price tag is utterly confusing, so bear with me here. Damn thing even light. This price tag is egregious. It is Siwoo Kim at $8,600, 9.6% projected ownership. $8,600 Siwoo is absurd, but it's keeping his ownership in the single digits, which I kind of like. 9.6% projected ownership because he's going to be a boomer bust guy this week. If he were chalky, if he were lower priced and very, very chalky, in that mid 20% range, he'd be such an easy guy to fade because he's a guy that's probably either going to come top 10 or miss the cut, to be honest with you. But the $8,600 price tag's making people have to make some interesting choices. And I think at this ownership, we go to Siwoo. Siwoo absolutely loves it around this golf course, probably why he has the price tag that he does from Draftkings. But he won this event in 2016. He came in 5th last year. So he has tons of upside around here. And he has been in stellar form. Let's take a look at the last few rounds, the strokes gain data for Siwoo Kim. He's gained tee to green. He gained tee to green in all 4 rounds at the PGA, gained in fairways in 2 of the 4 rounds, and overall he gained in fairways at the PGA. Gained tons on approach, over 4 strokes on approach. Gained in birdies or better gained. He was just striking the ball great at the PGA. So coming in good form, great tournament history, and single-digit ownership, even though he's priced probably $1,000 too high. I will pay that to get the ownership discount on a guy who, in Siwoo Kim, who, I mean, his upside's to win this thing. So if he's going to be single digit owned and I can, eliminate 90% of the field with the Siwoo Kim win, I'm okay paying up to do that. So Siwoo Kim, as crazy as it sounds, and it does sound crazy to me, at $8,600, I'm going to be playing this week at 9.6% projected ownership. And it's hard to prioritize him over this next player, and it's crazy that Siwoo's priced higher than him. But the next mid-shelf play is Sergio Garcia at $8,500 and 11.3% projected ownership. And Sergio barely has more projected ownership and is cheaper than Siwoo Kim, so that's where some pause comes in for Siwoo. Sergio, obviously a more elite player than Siwoo Kim over the course of his career. That goes without saying. Sergio's coming in 18th in the custom model. Second tee to green really made my eye pop because Sergio is a guy that's playing in the strong fields as well. So coming second tee to green in this model really did a lot for me to want to tout Sergio this week. So Sergio's been absolutely striping it. If he can just be neutral with the putter, another one of these guys, he's been absolutely awful with the putter here recently. If he can just be neutral with that putter, then I think we see a good finish from Sergio. He played this event in 2018. He came T24, so not great upside that we wanted to see, but in only one time around this track, at least good to see that he made the cut and almost posted a top 20. So at least neutral there on the course history. And Sergio's just a class player for this field. Underpriced, certainly, if you consider that Siwoo Kim's at $8,600, and the ownership will be easy to get to at 11.3%. So Sergio Garcia is certainly someone I like this week. And the next guy I like is Kevin Kisner at $8,300, 16.5% projected ownership. And you can trust Kiz to find himself some fairways. He's 32nd in this field in fairways gained. He's 6th with the putter. So if he can keep the putter hot, then yeah, Kisner's a guy that you're gonna have to look out for. He played relatively well last week, but played really well in rounds 3 and 4. And let me highlight that. So Kisner in rounds 3 and 4 gained 2.3 and 1 stroke on approach, so 3.3 strokes on approach over the weekend. Gained 2.9 and 0.8 fairways, so 3.7 in fairways gained over the weekend. Over the weekend, gained 1.1 birdies, gained 3 strokes on the par 4s, and was able to gain, 3.3 strokes tee to green as well. So, yeah, Kisner was fire on the weekend at the PGA. I don't see any reason why he can't carry that form into this week. And he's a guy who does have upside to win this event. Guys that have won this event, like Snedekers of the world, the Webb Simpsons of the world, they carry a similar prototype to Kevin Kisner. Like I consider them to be similar molds of golfers. And I would expect Kisner to have had success around this course. Yeah, so he last played the event in 2017, was T42, not great, but in 2016 came T10, which would be fine at this price tag, especially if he rolls in lots of birdies. So yeah, really like Kevin Kisner at this price tag. The ownership is fair at 16.5%. So if you're a Kiz guy, this is your week. Fire him up. It's a golf course that he can certainly take advantage of. The next player I like at $8,100 is Ryan Moore, 19% projected ownership. And Ryan Moore is a model darling this week. Not someone that I'm necessarily in love with playing, but I felt I had to mention him for you guys because the model certainly thinks he's a guy worth playing. Ranking 16th, 23rd tee to green, 13th in fairways gained, 30th in par 4 scoring in this field over the last 24 measured rounds. So yeah, Ryan Moore, the model absolutely loves him, and he just has these super poppy rounds. Like Saturday at the 3M, he gained 4.3 strokes tee to green in one round, 1.9 on approach, 4.2 fairways. I mean, it's insane. Gained 4.8 strokes tee to green in round 1 of the 3M Open, 5 strokes on approach, 4.4 strokes on the par 4s. I mean, that's just absolutely incredible stuff. He has these really poppy rounds. He's been very streaky as of late. So I'm not in love with the play, but I just thought I should mention him given that the model likes him so much. I'm more inclined at 19% to go underweight to the field, maybe sprinkle him in a lineup or two. But Ryan Moore at $8,100, 19% ownership. Model loves him, so you guys can make that decision for yourselves. I would rather play the next guy who has about half the ownership and is cheaper. Corey Connors at $8,000, 10.9% projected ownership. And look, I know I included putting in the model this week, and Corey Connors is god awful at putting, but his ball striking is so elite in this field that he is certainly underpriced and underowned. And if Corey can just make the 3-footers this week, we are going to be ecstatic with him at this price tag and ownership. Connors, one of the best players in any field, tee to green, week in and week out. Just so bad with the putter. So again, if we can just get a neutral week with the putter for Connors, he might contend, quite honestly, in this field. The field is so weak. So Corey Connors at $8,000, 10.9% projected ownership. The former Kent State Golden Flash. I absolutely love him this week. I also really like the player price below him, especially in a birdie fest. At $7,900, it's Dylan Fratelli. Dylan at 10.2% projected ownership. Give me more Fratelli. Fratelli's a guy that just makes tons of birdies. That's exactly what we want around this track. It's exactly what we want in Draftkings. He is rating in at 9th in the custom model, 5th tee to green, 2nd in birdies or better gained, 13th in the par 4s, and 101st in putting. So while we are including putting in the model this week to help us identify some players, we will still be team no putt a bit here because, I mean, the ball striking for Fratelli just screams that he's gonna catch one of these rounds where the putter gets hot and he's gonna make a ton of birdies. I love targeting him as a showdown player as well because he's a guy that can go very, very low at any moment in time. So yeah, Dylan Fratelli, $7,900, 10.2% projected ownership. Lock it up. The next player I was hoping the ownership would be lower on, but the price tag's just too low. It's Joaquin Niemann at $7,900, same price tag as Fratelli, 16.3% projected ownership though. And Niemann is just another young player who's just being overshadowed by the unbelievable play of the Morikawas and the Wolfs and the Hovlands of the world. But Niemann in his own right is a great young player, and particularly with the ball striking is how he gets it done. So coming in 12th in our custom model, 9th tee to green, 3rd on approach, 11th in birdies or better gained, and 130th in putting, also 101st in fairways gained. So a couple of serious red flags, but being that we are a bit team no putt, even though we included putting in our model, I'm okay riding with Niemann this week. I more so want to match the field, maybe a bit underweight to the field because I'm not in love with him, and I think 16.3% is a bit high. But he's too cheap. And at that ownership projection, I'm okay with the salary savings that he can provide me at a $7,900 price tag. The next player I like is Doc Redman at $7,800, 12.6% projected ownership. And Redman's rating in at 10th in our custom model, 6th on approach, 25th tee to green. Okay with the putter at 61st. So if he can catch a hot week with the putter, we are going to be very happy with Redman this week. Doc's a guy who is also a class player. Was one of the best amateurs in the world when he was an amateur. He's gained tee to green over his last 3 rounds, made the cut at the PGA, was able to gain tee to green over his last 3 rounds, and gained 3.8 strokes, or gained 3.8 fairways on Sunday at the PGA and 2.9 on Saturday. So that driver's clicking. Was able to gain with the putter over all 4 rounds at the PGA, so the putter seems to be hot. He was gaining tee to green, as I mentioned, so Redman's in great form coming into this event. He is a class player, as I mentioned, as one of the world's best amateurs before he turned pro. So Doc Redman, I really like this week at the $7,800 price tag. It should be easy to match the field on him, given that his ownership projection is sitting down at that 12.6%. So Doc Redman is a guy that I will be firing up this week, and you should take a hard look at him as well. A guy who I have mixed feelings about is priced below him, and that's Russell Henley at $7,700. 15% projected ownership just feels a bit high. But when I tell you the model numbers, you guys are going to possibly flock to him. He's coming in 4th in the custom model, first tee to green and first on approach. That's pretty crazy. He's fifth on the par fives and 132nd in putting. Henley's just been great tee to green and can't make a putt. The other concern is that he wasn't great in gaining fairways. The only round he did gain was on Sunday, so I guess that's encouraging. Henley is going to be another guy that's team no putt. I will certainly own him. 15% just seems a little bit high for a guy that was struggling to hit fairways last week and can't buy a putt. But hopefully the ownership drops a bit. I will in no way fade Henley. I won't full fade him. But I'm a little lukewarm on him as of now. Maybe if his ownership projection can get down into that 13%, 12%, maybe even 10% would be great range. Then I'll be really bullish on Henley at $7,700. And the last player in the mid-tier, the mid-shelf plays is Harold Varner III. HV3's coming in at $7,600 price tag, 11.6% projected ownership. Varner's just been playing great lately. Had a nice finish there at the PGA. Had himself a nice Sunday, which was nice to see after his brutal Sunday, the year prior at the PGA. So it was really nice to see HV3 finish the tournament off strong. Another guy who's just been awful with the putter, 139th, even worse than Henley in strokes gained putting in this field over the last 24 measured rounds. But at least Varner's hitting fairways. He's gaining tee to green. He's gaining strokes on these par fours. It really is just the putter with Varner that's been letting him down. So I love going to Varner this week at that $7,600 price tag. A lot of these guys in the $7,000 range, that mid to high $7,000 range, and the mid to low $8,000 range, I like a lot. So I'll be focusing there on a lot of my builds. I think you can get some really strong builds by focusing in that direction. You can even grab yourself a player up at the top in that $11,000 or $10,000 range, and then hammer that low 8, high 7 range. I really like that strategy as a build. I'm going to respark to finish this damn thing, and then we're going to get into the swag bag plays for this week. Okay, the swag bag. Swag bag plays are less than $75,000 in Draftkings pricing. And our first swag bag play is extremely intriguing. Extremely intriguing. It's Henrik Norlander at $7,300, coming in at 16.2% projected ownership. And for you guys that have listened to the show for a while, your ears probably perked up that a swag bag play is projected for such high ownership. But maybe it won't be as surprising when I tell you that Norlander rates first in our custom model. He's 8th tee to green, 5th on approach, 7th in fairways gained, 30th in birdies or better gained, 2nd on the par 4s, and 49th in putting. He's doing it all well. Just a player like Henrik Norlander, when he gets this high owned in this pricing range, seems like an easy fade. But man, he rates out incredibly. So I won't full fade. I'll at least own some of them. I'll likely match the field, even though I usually like to fade people in this scenario. So if you're someone that's a bigger risk taker than I am, which probably rare, I'd probably fade Norlander and look to some of these other guys down here because 16.2%, fading the chalk down here when you get into the swag bag is usually never a bad idea, even if they do rate out as well as Norlander does. But I will probably be a little underweight, try to match the field on Norlander just because the model loves him so much this week. The next player priced with Norlander, a better player by all accounts, not in better form, but Lucas Glover at $7,300, 8.8% projected ownership. And this is why it's so difficult for me to tout Norlander even harder. That ownership being half as much as Norlander's for Glover feels wrong. Lucas Glover went on form, certainly a better player than Henrik Norlander has shown himself to be, or proven himself to be at least at this point in time. Let's check the course history for Glover. So course history for Glover. he has come T72 last year, didn't play in 2018, came T28 in 2017, T22 in 2016, and T18 in 2015. So yeah, he's made the cut every time he's come here. He's a class player compared to these players priced around him, specifically like the Norlanders of the world. So yeah, I do really like going to Lucas Glover. I would more so like to, take some of the ownership I would play toward Norlander and allocate it to Glover instead. So we'll see where I end up with these two guys. You guys can, of course, based on the data I just gave you, make a decision for yourself. And I'm not sure, did I give you guys... Let's see. I'll give you guys where Glover's rating in the model. He's coming in 6th. He's 12th tee to green, 4th on approach, 28th in fairways gained, 3rd in birdies or better gained, 38th on the par 4s, but 94th in strokes gained putting. And he's admittedly not been as good as of late, but the long-term stats say that he rates out well this week. And if, he's going to be half as owned as Norlander, I think we should certainly be overweight to the field on Lucas Glover this week. The next player I like in the SCHWAG bag is Sepp Straka at $7,200, 6.9% projected ownership. And Straka Flock of Flame can just get hot fire with the irons. He's a guy that can make tons and tons and tons of birdies. So he's a guy we want in this field. He's 26th in the custom model, 20th in birdies or better gain, 12th with the putter over the last 24 measured rounds. So if Straka can stay hot with the putter and his approach catches a bit of fire, which has been really not up to his standard as of late, we can get a big payoff from Straka at this price tag. 6.9% projected ownership is fine. Not concerned about that at all. So Straka at $7,200, 6.9%. Absolutely look to him this week if you end up in this pricing range. The next player I like is the last player in the $7,000 range before we get into the $6,000 range. And he's coming in at $7,000 flat. It's Cameron Davis at 5.7% projected ownership. Cam Davis is a bomber of the ball, so a bit off brand for what we've been recommending so far because he's not a guy that's going to find a lot of fairways. He's coming in 94th in this field in fairways gained, but he's a birdie maker. 9th in birdies or better gained, 16th on the par 4s, 6th tee to green. He's 93rd in putting, which, again, we're going to need some guys to at least be neutral for us with the putter this week. But, man, Cam Davis is making birdies from seemingly everywhere, even if he's not hitting fairways. So he's a guy that if you end up in this pricing range, his ownership's low enough at 5.7% that I don't mind to sprinkle a Cam Davis at that $7,000 price tag and 5.7% projected ownership. The first player in the $6,000 range that we're going to look to, and I was surprised at this ownership, almost into the double digits. I thought it was going to be lower. Bryce Garnett at $6,700. Was hoping for lower ownership on Bryce, but we're not going to get it. Coming in 23rd in the custom model, 6th on the par 4s was what really struck me for Bryce Garnett. He's 37th tee to green, which it's not bad. 32nd on approach, 61st in fairways gained, and 72nd in birdies or better gained. So if he can get some more putts to fall and make some more birdies, then Bryce Garnett is certainly live to give us a top 10 this week. And I say top 10 because Bryce Garnett last year at this event came T6, and the year prior came T20, then came T20 in 2016 as well. So Bryce Garnett clearly has some success around this golf course and likes it around this golf course. So don't love the 9.7% projected ownership, but it's not terrible. And if you do have to dig down into the $6,000 range, I think you can do much worse than taking Bryce Garnett. Another player I like at the same price tag as Garnett, $6,700, is Mark Hubbard, 4.3% projected ownership. And Hubbard's another guy that can just get nuclear hot. You can just get absolutely nuclear in one of these rounds. Another guy that I would recommend to look at for showdown players because he can fire these insane rounds when he gets hot with the putter. He's 35th in the custom model, 15th in putting. As I mentioned, when he's hot with the putter, we want to try and ride him. He's 20th on the par 4s, 50th in birdies or better gained, 55th in fairways gained. So, he's pretty just average everywhere. But he's a volatile guy. So if we can get him to play three great rounds and one of his real poor rounds, he'll pay off at this price tag. If we can get 4 great rounds out of him, which is unlikely but possible, then look out, because Mark Hubbard will be toward the top of the leaderboard come Sunday if that's the case. Very, very, very unlikely that we do get 4 rounds out of him, but I like our chances of at least getting one, and we're going to hope that one round comes on either Thursday or Friday for Mark Hubbard. So at $6,700, I like him at 4.3% projected ownership. I also like Tyler Duncan at $6,500 at 2.8% projected ownership. I was happy to see the ownership as low as it is. 27th in the custom model, 5th in fairways gained, so we can trust that Duncan's going to be in the fairway. 30th on approach, 27th tee to green, but 94th in birdies or better gained and 128th in putting. Yep, it's going to be team no putt again for us with Tyler Duncan. The ownership is surprising because Duncan came T39 here last year, so has shown that he can at least push across making a cut, and that's really all we need from a guy down in this pricing range. So Tyler Duncan's a guy that I certainly like this week at that $6,500 price tag and 2.8% projected ownership. I'll also go to a fellow Ohioan at the same price tag as Duncan, and I'm going to re-spark this thing. And that's Jason Duffner at $6,500, 3% projected ownership. And I think the price tag and the ownership are fair on Duffner. He's a highly volatile play, so he's a guy you have to be comfortable with missing the cut. But if he does make the cut, then it's probably because he's performing extremely well. He's a streaky player on approach, can get absolutely fire hot with those irons. He's 38th in the custom model, 22nd tee to green, 20th on approach, 16th in fairways gained over the last 24 measured rounds in this field. But he's 102nd in birdies or better gained, and that's likely mostly due to the fact that he's 140th in strokes gained putting. One of the worst players in this field in strokes gained putting over the last 24 measured rounds. So we're going to have to pray Duffner can at least be neutral on these greens, or even just lose a little bit and not lose a ton. Like, he doesn't even necessarily have to be neutral. And he can pay off at this price tag. He was cut at this event last year, came T66 in 2018, T14 in 2017, T22 in 2016. So, he has had success at this course in the past, not recently, but he has had success in the past, and he's been playing okay as of late. So if you have to, dip down here and Tyler Duncan's not for you, and maybe you want to go with a more volatile play, then I would look to Jason Duffner at that $6,500 price tag and 3% projected ownership. And the last player that I will tout this week, the last player in the swag bag, is Chase Seifert at $6,400, 4.7% projected ownership. And Seifert seems to be, a pretty solid young player by all accounts. So Seifert's rating in 20th in the model, 20th tee to green, 17th on approach, 45th in fairways gained, 67th in birdies or better gained, 45th on the par 4s, and 54th strokes gained putting. I've mentioned to you guys before, when you get down into this pricing range, it's really nice to see a guy that's at least neutral or a little better than neutral in all of the stat categories you're looking at, because then they don't have to rely on one skill set to bail them out. They can be, they can bail themselves out with many components to their game. So love to see that from Seifert down at the $6,400 price tag. It's something that's, unique to him down in this pricing range. Usually there is at least one red flag for each of these players down in this pricing range. So I do like Seifert at $6,400. He's never played this event before, which, take that for what it's worth, for what it means to you. But for me, these guys have played enough golf in their lives. They've played, like Chase Seifert has played enough professional events at this point in his career that I trust that he has a process that can, allow him throughout the week to get comfortable with this golf course in his practice rounds before he goes ahead and tees it up on Thursday. So Chase Seifert at $6,400, I certainly like. Guys, I didn't like this strain. It wasn't my favorite weed, but, we got through it. The highs, it's whatever. I feel okay. It is a little cerebral. It's a bit in the head, and I like more of a sort of body feel. So I will not be going back to the Purple God. But you guys let me know in the comment section. What are you guys smoking? Let me know what you guys are smoking in the comment section. Recommend something to me. I would love to hear your recommendations. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit me up on Twitter. Message me personally if you know me. Would love if you guys could follow the YouTube channel, subscribe, like the videos. If you can download the podcast, we're on Spotify, Apple Music. That'd be great as well. Rate and review the show on those platforms as well. It greatly helps me. Appreciate all the help. If you can keep the website traffic going, I've seen we've had some website traffic. I'll keep the articles coming as long as you guys keep showing up. htgpod.com is where you can see us on the website. Excited for a big week. Got another text, another viewer, had their best finish in the Millionaire Maker last week. We're looking at a $500,000 top prize this week. Let's see if we can bag it for one of us. I feel it coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's close. The models have been performing for us. We just need to get the right combination, folks. So appreciate you guys sticking with me. Love you all, and I'll talk to you next week. Peace.